Hey guys, today I wanted to talk a little bit about hormones. I've been on hormones now for about 18 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. So I wanted to address specifically today the emotional effects and the mental effects of HRT. I've gone into this a little bit in one of my other videos, but I wanted to go into it a little bit more in depth. And as I've been writing my ebook, I kind of thought a little bit more about it, and I wanted to go into that and just discuss it. So, when I first began hormones, I obviously didn't have any frame of reference, or really, I didn't know what to expect beyond what I'd read, other girls talk about. But I didn't really want to read too much on it because I wanted it to be entirely my own experience. Um, which I know is kind of the opposite of watching this video. But anyway, I think what I mean is just that it's an individual experience no matter what. So don't necessarily think that my experience or anybody else's that they'll tell you online is going to be your exact experience, although it may be pretty similar. Um, the first thing that I noticed when I went on hormones, I went on an anti-androgen first, and what I noticed initially was that my levels of sex drive went up considerably during the first week, and so did my levels of like anger and frustration and aggression. So things that are somewhat typically associated with testosterone. You may get that when you first start on anti-androgens. You may feel an initial surge of testosterone, which is kind of strange, but it seemed to happen to me, and I've heard a few other girls say the same thing. But within the first 3 or 4 days, that completely went away. My libido completely dropped off, and I just felt calm and more in control of my emotion. I guess you could say like frustration and anger and those sorts of emotions were a little bit easier for me to handle after that first, I guess, few days to a week maybe. And then I really started to notice new effects. And they were more pronounced when I initially went on hormones because over time I think I've just gotten used to them. But some of the biggest changes were having to do with that feelings of aggression and anger. I just felt much calmer, much more at ease with myself. Things didn't seem to upset me the way that they did. And I think some of that's probably psychosomatic and just the product of feeling happy that I was finally on hormones and going in the direction that I wanted to be going in versus having male hormones work against what I wanted. But that was a pretty noticeable change for me, and that's been pretty consistent. The only times it's really changed from there is when I started on injections. So I was on patches for a while, which kept my emotions really steady, and I really love that about patches. It was just that they didn't stay on very well and were annoying. So I switched to injections, and they they kind of make your mood swing a little bit more because you get a more of a rise and a fall in your hormone levels. Um, but really, it's kind of evened out over time. So in addition to that, I think I really noticed an increase in empathy and sentimentality. So just identifying with the way others are feeling, or those who you're interacting with, how they're feeling, or even people you're not interacting with, like characters in TV shows or movies. Anything that was emotionally evocative became much more powerful to me. Um, and then also thinking about sentimental things just felt more powerful too. So recalling happy memories or even sad memories could just create a stronger visceral emotional reaction in me. Um, and then in addition to that, just an overall increase in emotionality entirely. So in all emotions became more accessible, closer to the surface, and easier to feel, I would say. It felt sort of like a fog had lifted from around my emotions, and I was able to feel them all more deeply than I had been able to prior to it. Um, a few other ones. I won't go too much into like the sexual aspects of it, but I talk about it in my ebook that I'm going to be coming out with soon, so you guys can read it there. I don't want to get too graphic with it on here, but in general, it definitely changed my sexual triggers. So it made things that used to be appealing, which were more visual aspects, uh, less appealing, and like more of a narrative focus or a fantasy type focus became much more appealing. In addition to that was definitely an increased desire for affection. So, whereas before maybe I would crave something sexual, now it's the desire to just be like held or hugged or, being interacted with affectionately became way, way more appealing than any sort of sexual thing what could be. Um, and that's really been consistent throughout. So I'm lucky now that I have a girlfriend that I get a good amount of affection from. But if I didn't have it, I know I would crave it desperately, and I love it. So the other part of that is a desire for protection, which was an interesting feeling because I don't really think I ever felt that way prior to starting hormones. It's just kind of like that you want somebody to wrap their arms around you and make you feel loved and comfortable and safe. And I never really needed that prior, but it seemed to be something that I desired more and more as I went on with hormones. But anyway, that's it. There's definitely more to that, and like I said, I go into more detail with it in my ebook, which I know I'm already late with. I said I'd be coming out with it on the 10th, I think, but it should be done in the next week or week and a half. So I'll do an update video then when it's done, and I hope you guys will like it, and I hope you like this video. So I'll start doing videos again more often too. I've just been very busy between trying to get this ebook done and work and some other things. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.